They're going to hold me back.
Depends on the husband.
Okay, well, you know what? You showed me a man, because every man I've ever come across that has wanted me like that has always wanted me to be a housewife.
Because they're insecure. They think if you conquer the world, you will leave them.
Yeah.
So you want the man who enhances and puts up and makes you, and those do exist. So you would take that if you found that.
But I would never be monogamous with them.
Ever?
Never. I will never be monogamous. Ever. I don't want to be put in a box. Do not put me in a box.
That's not a box.
That is a box. It's like a chain. If I put a collar around you and I'm like, hey, you have 50 yards to go. See what you can find. And then at 51 yards, this hot little young thing comes walking by you. Wouldn't you want to touch that? And she's like, oh, come over here. Come here.
No,
come on, boy.
Not
come here, boy.
See, I'm a little jaded because I'd be like, oh my God, if I touch that, she's going to be fucking crazy and it's going to be a headache.
Absolutely not. What if it's just a thing? What if she's just like coaxing you?
I think you grow out of that. I think you do. I think you mature as a guy and you don't want to do that. Or you get to a point, like I very famously said on this podcast, where you just blink your eyes like Jeannie and you want them to turn into an Egg McMuffin instead. You're just like, she's hot, but I'd rather go get something to eat. Like there's a point where you do.
They do.
And it's hard because a lot of the guys who do this were married a long, long time.
Yep.
They felt like they missed out on something and now the opportunities... there's benefit to those of us who stayed single in our 30s and 40s because we don't need to chase everybody around anymore. Do you agree with that? That at some point you're like, have you given up on the me and her happily ever after thing, or is it just not forefront in your mind?
Well, actually, feelings do grow, and my last long-term arrangement relationship was 2.5 years, and we were actually in pre-marriage counseling because we were talking about getting married. We dated for a couple of years on an arrangement type basis. And she looks at me and says, I need this to go further. I am not looking to be status quo for the rest of my life. I'm looking for a husband eventually. And we broke up. So about 3 or 4 weeks later, I did miss being with her, and I missed the relationship that we had. And so I came back and I said, all right, I'm in. Let's do this. And it ruined everything.
Oh.
It did. Everything changed from that day forward.
Yeah, I mean, everything.
And 4 months later, we were done for good.
Yeah, I believe that. All right, I have questions about the arrangement. I got to take a quick break so I can afford to put Amy in a box. And we will be back right after this. And we are back. I'm here with Marcus and Amy, the host and hostess of Secrets of a Sugar Daddy. Go to secretsofasugardaddy.com and you can get all the juicy details. But let's talk about the arrangement. How does this start? How does the conversation start? What do you want? What are you looking for? What can you do for me? What is the basic nuts and bolts of arrangement like this?
Well, from my end of it, I prefer... originally, I do kind of a per meeting because I don't know where this is going to go. Very quickly, I can tell if we want to move it to like a weekly allowance where we never discuss finances again, or things come up during the month, or hey, my car broke down, can you help me with that, or your rent or whatever. But usually, we like it to feel non-transactional, and then more of going out once a week or twice a week. Like,
are the numbers on the site? Do people put that on their profile?
No, you can't. No, you can't do that. No, you cannot say, because this is not, you're not paying for sex.
No, you're paying for the time.
Yeah, exactly. But if you mention anything transactional, they will delete your account. They'll block it.
If you said, I really like shoes... Is that a hint?
Yeah.
Love to travel.
You need to ask Marcus this. I don't know.
I know.
I actually had somebody that I went to a mall with, and she says, I'm not looking for anything financial, but it's my birthday, and let's go shopping.
Yeah, you can say that 365 days a year and probably get a shopping spree. It's
right.
a good move. So there's no talk, but at some point, somebody's going to have to say, what are you looking for? Or are you going to say, or they say, what do I need? Who leads here?
Either one can. I've seen
There's
both.
no protocol?
There's no protocol, no. Usually
it's from the women's side.
Yeah.
Because the men will say, well, what kind of allowance or arrangement are you looking for? And then that prompts the women. They'll either say an amount that would help them out every week or per meeting, or they'll say, I'm not really comfortable talking about this. What do you offer?
I would bet that the women come in lower than you would think.
Higher, much higher.
You think they come in higher?
Much higher. Because they always ask for more, and then it's bargain time.
It is. So I always thought they would be like, I'll take this and then try and get him later once he sees what's in the box, so to speak.
No, that's not what I've
experienced. Boxes?
You brought it up.
You like these boxes.
You brought it up. No, I was just, so they don't do that and then be like, let me just get the job and then we'll show my worth.
A lot of the women who move into bigger cities from a larger city like New York or LA are very disappointed sometimes at the numbers in the current city.
Yeah, I know. Because I know some, shall we say, struggling actresses who did not want to wait tables. And they had a certain price that I'm sure, we're recording this in Scottsdale, Arizona, that although it's a very wealthy place with I bet it's not as high.
It's not.
Yeah. So somebody says, like, here's what I want. And then you'll be like, that works for me. And then what's the next step?
Yeah, so sometimes you discuss that before you ever meet. Many times, as in Amy and I, we never discussed it at all.
I've never discussed it with any of my sugar daddies.
We just met.
What do you do? Just submit receipts?
No.
Well, you have to discuss it at some point.
No, they just take care of me.
But how do they know what to take care of? They just hand cash?
I mean, I just tell them what's going on in my life, and they'll be like, do you want help with that? I'll be like, okay.
So the very first girl I ever met on the site, again, we never discussed whatsoever. I picked her up. We went out that night, had a great time. And actually, the better time that I have, the more generous I am. And I actually like when they don't. I'm actually more generous when they don't state an amount. For some reason, I just feel like being more generous.
Yeah, there's a restaurant in London that had no prices on it, and you pay what it's worth. They always got more on average than you think.
And that's the case with me. But if she would have told me a certain amount, and I agreed to it, then okay, that's what I'm expecting for the night to pay. For her company for the night.
I feel like then it almost feels like an escort, and that's the
Well, this is the fun. So you're like, you know what? I'm in school, and I need school's overwhelming for me. You say stuff like that. I'll help you with school. Then what's the expectation? Then that's a second thing. Is what am I getting for that?
Oh, I mean, I date them. I mean,
I know, but you date. But then you're like, okay, I'm your girlfriend. Like I will give without the title.
Yes.
So I'll do the girlfriend stuff.
She basically gives a girlfriend experience.
Okay. Well, the girlfriend should get this stuff anyway.
Right.
But the caveat is I'm not your only girlfriend. We're not exclusive.
Yeah, or...
and you usually tell people that right up front.
Yeah.
Is there a price for exclusivity? Not for you, but others. But is that a common thing?
For other ones, sometimes
everybody's unique.
Yeah,
every situation is unique.
Because everyone has different intentions.
I agree, which seems harder in a way and more complicated than if you ask somebody out to dinner, you're probably trying to have sex with them that night and then date them.
That's almost implied.
And then date them. It is implied.
Yes.
But you're going to have sex with them and then you're going to date them. And then the next day, when are we going to do this again? And then it's like, I can only see you once a week. Like, there's a lot of moving parts here.
Okay, so that's, okay, I understand what you're asking. So basically...
What am I getting for my money?
What are you getting for your money? So that's why it's very important to be very clear about your intentions. People who are on this site already know. They've already gone through all the BS, right? They've gone through the BS of regular dating. Not that it's all BS, but they know where they are. These are mature people. The men, to me, the majority of them are mature people. They already have gone through the marriage. They know what they're missing. They want to either try it or this is it for them, right? So they're already conceptually aware of what they want, and they're more willing to say that and be very upfront about it. The majority of their profiles will say exactly what they're looking for.
Are the majority of those men hurt from prior experience? Is that a higher ratio of that?
I have experienced a lot of men that have opened up to me about that, and in like what I feel my duty is to make them feel better. I really want them to feel love, like to feel I do, because I have a lot of love to give. I love people unconditionally. I don't care who you are.
Well, there's some conditions.
No, yeah, some conditions. But I truly do try to
got bills.
Right. But it just like anyway, so but that's what they get, because they're like so many times, like I'll go a couple months without asking for anything, and they're like, what can I help you with? And then I'll just be like, well, hey, like I'm in school. Like if you want to help with that, you can help with that. But I'm not asking you to. If
you leave
you
a pile of
to.
bills on the table?
No. Oh, heavens, no.
Some people, the more traditional one though is a set allowance, right?
That is more traditional.
Yeah.
But like the very first girl I met 5 years ago, I found out that she had some unpaid traffic tickets because her license was suspended. I took care of all those. Right. I found out her rent, and I took care of that, and then her car payment. So as the relationship, I didn't do that in the beginning, but as the relationship developed, I started helping her more and more and more.
Like a girlfriend.
I probably spent more on her than anybody, and we never talked finances one single time. I just took care of her.
If you have the means, I think most men, or you want to take care of their girlfriend, partner.
I took care of my wife.
Right. I have so many questions here. So the standard rate, I'm just going to give you what I know, because it's crazy how many people I know who do this in a place like Los Angeles or New York, because a lot of the female listeners out here are interested in this. The women are more interested in this than the men, surprisingly, of the ones I've talked to. The women secretly are like, you know what, I just want that, but they're afraid to say that. You know, there's a lot of very successful women who are also like, I wish I could say out loud that, like, fuck it, I wish I just had some guy to take care of me and I wouldn't have to go to the office.
Absolutely.
Office 50 days a week. It's like the dirty little secret of the independent women is they sacrificed a lot of happiness for that.
Exactly. And that's where I'm at. But it would take
a party who also wants to conquer the world and do want that.
Yeah. Well, I want to contribute to the world, yes, in some way.
So the going rate in New York and Los Angeles for something like this runs about $10,000 a month.
Yep. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And in DC.
And in DC.
And Chicago.
Right. Depending on what country the sugar babies from matter.
But being a sugar daddy is not cheap.
It's not cheap. It's not for everyone. So $10,000 a month is something, though. The problem which happens to the girls, though, women, are you girls? What can I say? Sugar baby. You're referring to us as a sugar baby. I don't know if I could say girls or women.
No, you could say whatever. Call me a monkey for all I care.
I know, but I feel like that's going to cost me. It's a different
$50 again.
$50 a monkey.
You're up to $150.
Okay. Is that they rely on that allowance, and then he's like, you know what? I'm going to find you're out of a job, so to speak.
Yes, there's a lot of insecurity on the women's side because they can be dropped at any time. The men still have their money.
Right.
The women could be making $50,000 to $100,000
and they don't tend to save it
a year.
Yeah.
And it could be yanked out in a matter of minutes.
Right. Or they age out of it.
Yep.
Sadly, or whatever. How do you say, like, I need a retainer? I mean, do some people do that? Like, I need to, like, it's going to be this much a month, but I need 90 days notice if you're going to let me go.
In my past arrangement, what had happened was we were bringing in other girls and playing with them. And there were a couple girls that actually moved into the house that he got for us and stuff. And so one of my things was...
Who were you with, Hugh Hefner?
I was taking care of these girls as well. So these girls, though, would get to a point, they would either bring in drugs, no drugs were allowed. They would have some mental breakdown or something because they couldn't handle it. So they would, we had to like have them leave, and we would actually pay an additional month advance to them to try to help them get back on their feet. Or we would help them by getting them into assisted living, like the rehab stuff. I'm sorry, but halfway
assisted
house.
living. I'm like, are they 85 years old?
No. Like, I'm sorry, but like the halfway houses and stuff. So like, where there are assistants or they have that mental help. So we would do that. That's what we would try to help these girls.
Okay. But is that a conversation? Like, is it insecure on both parts? The men, I imagine, would be like, is she only spending time with me because I take care of her? And the women's side is like, does he have any feelings before me, besides what he paid for? Which is just like any relationship, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's not that much different.
So the biggest key to that is how much time is he spending with you? A man, so men are so narrow, like they just have this like, they have blinders on, right? Sometimes. So